So everybody wants to know, how is the war in Gaza going, right? It's in the news every day, back and forth, meetings, decisions, comments from President Trump, comments from the EU. We have the chief of staff in Israel fighting with the prime minister. We have the prime minister fighting with his own cabinet. So where do we stand right now? That's the question everybody wants to know. So first and foremost, we have to understand that we are basically at a point of stagnation right now. There's no simple way to say this. This is where we are. Prime Minister feels like is trying to measure his options. He wants a full deal. Maybe he's going to negotiate for a partial deal with Hamas. But it feels like we're basically back to where we've always been. But what is really at the crux of this decision making or lack thereof? And to me, what's really going on here is that Benjamin Netanyahu is doing his best to try to please what he likes to consider them, his American partners, right? Which brings us to this quote from Amit Segal on X. Amit Segal, I believe, really does some good reporting. So let's take what he writes here with, a level of, belief and accuracy, right? So let's just see what's here, right? Jerusalem is concerned that Donald Trump's patience will eventually run out. Now that right there should tell you exactly what it is that motivates the prime minister and his chief of staff and his defense minister, right? That Donald Trump's patience will run out. Now we have to consider, why is this important? Why does this even matter? Right? Now, Israel has successfully dealt Iran a pretty sobering blow in what we're referring to as the 12-day war. Iran has been very quiet and very passive against Israel because, and again, if we're going to lob criticisms, we need to also give praise when it's necessary or warranted. Israel, the IDF, the chief of staff, the prime minister himself have done a tremendous job against the Iranians. No question about it. And despite what the president of the United States has to say, it was pretty much all done by Israel. Even that B-52 bomber run was done with zero resistance because Israel wiped out all of their aerial defenses. The United States in a million years could have never flown in there and bombed Iran's nuclear program. Because if they could have done it this easily, they would have already done it by themselves. And the reason they didn't is because they couldn't. And they knew it. Okay? So really, ultimately, Israel did all of the work, and they really not just set the Iranians back, but they let the Iranians know who is the big dog in this region. And Israel, under the leadership of Netanyahu, did a wonderful job against Iran. If I had to give it a grade, I would give it an A. Solid A. Yes, great job. Now, what's going to be in the future, we'll see. But you know what? If we have to, if we're going to project what the future looks like based on the past, I'm fairly confident Israel will do a tremendous job against Iran if Iran is foolish enough to engage with Israel again. So let's put that aside. When it comes to Gaza, if Iran is an A, Gaza is an F. It's an F. It's a failure. Now, the thing is, Israel at this point, Hezbollah's out of the way. The Houthis, again, Israel just pretty much bombed all of their top leadership. The Houthis are scuffling. They don't really have much. Iran is pretty much, at least for the time being, out of the picture. Really not a factor. Everyone was concerned that the Russians would get involved to defend Iran. They didn't do that. So really, Israel has pretty much defanged all of their enemies. They have demoralized them. They have, again, even entities like Russia and China have no interest in engaging against Israel at all. So everything really looks great except for Gaza. Gaza is still a mess, and Israel has no idea how to deal with it. So you would think, especially after what we've seen, these are not words anymore. Before October 7th, yeah, Israel's strong, Israel's strong. That was a lot of words. It was a lot of words. A lot of people, including myself, didn't necessarily believe that this was a given. Not saying that we didn't think it was possible, but it wasn't a given that Israel would be so able to thoroughly dominate its opponents in the manner that it has. But they have. Given that, Gaza should be a piece of cake now. Right? We could say before they were busy with Iran, they were busy with Hezbollah, there was all kinds of, and Yemen, there was all kinds of other considerations. Okay, that argument could have been made, but we are past that now. We're past that. Gaza should be very easy to handle. Whether it's weapons that Israel needs, Israel can manufacture all the weapons it needs to deal with Gaza. Simple. Very simple. Gaza doesn't really have an army. They don't really have much. Despite what people say, Israel does have weapons manufacturing capabilities. Maybe not enough to sustain itself against 4 different countries at the same time. But to deal simply with Gaza, no question it does. 100%. Bombs, munitions, everything. So let's put that aside. So Israel can do everything it needs to do against Gaza. That's not a problem. But, according to Amit Segal, and I have all the reason to believe this is true, Jerusalem, Netanyahu and his buddies, are concerned Trump's patience is running out. Why does that matter? You see, no one can explain why this makes a difference. Let's say Trump's patience runs out. It runs out. Okay, great. And? Okay, here we go. In a recent interview, the president was blunt. Oh, how scary. Quote, "They may be winning the war, but they're not winning the world of public relations." Yes. Well, see, here's the thing. When you're an adult, you understand that sometimes you cannot have everything. I mean, as Niccolo Machiavelli said, if you had to choose between being feared or loved, right, you should choose to be feared if you can't have both. And oftentimes we can't have both. We can't have both, right? We could win wars, or we could win the quote-unquote war of public relations. Now, we saw what happens when we lose wars. That's October 7th. And by the way, we had tremendous public sympathy, and the quote-unquote world was with us on October 7th and October 8th. But now, maybe I'm speaking out of line here. Maybe I'm only speaking on behalf of myself, but I would much rather have, to borrow a quote from a great man, I would much rather have a state of Israel that's hated by everybody, but that's strong and dominant and just wiping its enemies out like we're doing now, rather than having a state of Israel that basically goes from disaster to disaster, scuffling, scrambling around, trying to, what are we going to do? I'm not interested in this. Now, Donald Trump is interested in this, and the Americans are interested in this. Why? Because that makes a dependent Israel, a dependent client state, right? Don't worry, we'll take care of you. What does Trump say, right? No one has taken care of Israel like me. All due respect, Mr. President, we're not interested in a foreigner taking care of us. We can take care of ourselves. We can. And so Trump, quote, they're going to have to get that war over with. Oh, we will we? We have to get it over with. Huh. Amazing. Now, does that sound like an ally? Or does that sound like a third-party observer? Right? Just a guy saying, yeah, maybe you should get it over with. That's not an ally. Shouldn't an ally say, we're with you. We're with you. Do what you got to do here. These guys in Gaza, they're no good. We saw what they did. We know who they are. These people are the worst of the worst. Let's be honest. I mean, after October 7th, it's hard to argue otherwise. And instead, it's like this kind of like almost soft extortion, right? Israel, they have to get it over with. If they don't, everyone's going to turn against them. What does that sound like to anybody, right? Yeah, Trump is America first. Can someone explain why ending the Gaza war and allowing, the global network of Islamic terrorists, fundamentalists, to allow them to get a victory in Gaza, that's America first? I mean, America doesn't have any, despite what all, Steve Bannon and Tucker Carlson and all the geniuses. Well, we're going to have boots on the ground. Wrong. Wrong. The Iran war is going to start World War III. Wrong. Wrong. So nothing has happened. America is basically at zero exposure. Israel has asked the United States barely for anything at all. Barely for anything. Yeah, okay, sure. Weapons and money, but guess what? I mean, would you rather, let's say it like this. We saw how many lives and how much money it cost America to fight Iraq in 2001 all the way through however many years. Isn't this a better use of America's money? A tiny fraction to Israel to let Israel do all the fighting? Or would America rather the situation got so bad that eventually they'll have to invade the Middle East again and do all of this on their own? This notion, well, it's not our business. Again, it was your business on September 11th. That's coming up in 9 days. Another reminder, I know for those who think, oh, Israel was behind it. Okay, genius. Israel was behind it. Israel was behind October 7th. Israel is behind everything, right? You listen to these idiots, Israel's behind everything. Now, for those of us who actually live in the world and leave our house on occasion, we understand that, no, this is Islam that did this. And they do it, and they take credit for it, and they brag about it, and they celebrate it. So yeah, look, we know what's going on. We know what's going on in England with grooming gangs. We understand what's going on, right? Oh, if we leave the Muslims alone, they'll leave us alone. Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's why the Muslims have destroyed Sweden. It's because the Swedes would not leave the Muslims alone. Ah, yes. If you listen to all these geniuses, they would tell you that's right. That's right. If only the Swedes would have stopped invading Afghanistan and Syria, this wouldn't have happened. Yes, of course. So, but in any event, Israel has to stop this war. Now, Trump has his own calculations, and what are those calculations? What are they? What might those be? Now, we do know that Trump has gotten, I don't know what kind of agreement it was, but they got a verbal agreement from Qatar that Qatar is going to invest $1.2 trillion in the United States. So, perhaps Israel's greatest friend, the United States, is really kind of slowly morphing into Qatar's best friend, right? That maybe it's Qatar that wants this war to end, right? So maybe this is not really America first. Maybe this is Qatar first. Could that be the case? I don't know. I'm just asking questions. I don't know. Could it be that Donald Trump is now in the pocket of, the global Islamic money men in the Gulf, just like the leaders of the EU are? How the leaders of the EU have flooded their countries with hordes of Islamic immigrants, all for Gulf cash? Is Trump now going down that road also? I don't know. I'm just asking questions. I don't know. I mean, that's it. But in any event, to take the focus off of the United States, why should Israel care that Trump is losing patience? Let Trump lose patience. He's losing patience. Okay, let's say he has lost his patience already. So is there some kind of veiled threat there that if Israel doesn't end this war, then Trump and the Americans will do something to Israel? Sanctions or something like that? I mean, is that the implication? And if that is the implication, then we are entering extortion territory, right? If you pay me for protection for your business, then you'll be fine. Now, if you don't, well, I mean, a brick might make its way right through your front window. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes bricks just happen to go flying and they just may find their way right into your store via your window. I mean, is that what we're talking about? And if that is what we're talking about, then we have a much bigger problem with the United States than we want to admit. Then the United States is not our greatest ally. They are now our greatest extortionist, which is a very big problem. But what this does go to show you, and again, here's the thing. We had, I don't know if it's covered here, saying decisive war, we have to do this quick. We have to do it quick. Everything has to be quick with these guys. Quick, quick, quick. Now, consider this. Now, I know it's true. There are hostages there still remaining, and that's a very bad situation. There's no question about it. But understand, Hamas is planning on holding these hostages until we basically give up. That's their plan. That's their plan. They are not going to give up these hostages unless we retreat from Gaza. That is the bottom line. That's the bottom line. Because they know if they hand us the hostages and we don't retreat, we are going to just go in and wipe them all out, basically. So they're not stupid. They are not stupid. Anyone who says, well, we'll just keep making deals until we get them all back and then finish them off, they're not going to do that. The Gazans will never do that. So that's already something we have to consider, that Israel, again, they have to do what they have to, but fundamentally, there may be a necessity to effectively, put those hostages on the back burner. There's really not much Israel can do. To allow the entire country to be extorted by terrorists in order to save whatever, I don't even know how many people are left alive there. It's probably less than 10 even, right? To allow millions of citizens of the state of Israel to be extorted to potentially save 10, 20 people this is not a way to do things at all. But regardless, there's a very simple solution here, basically, right? I mean, we're already facing threats of sanction from the EU. We're basically facing veiled threats from Donald Trump and the Americans. Israel should simply take the Gazans and send them to somewhere else. Now, if you don't want to send them to Europe, I mean, honestly, I would, simply to punish the Europeans for their bad behavior. But even if you didn't, let's say you didn't, you could easily send them to Yemen, where they belong. Yemen wanted to get involved in this conflict for no reason. It seems like they have a real, affinity, a real love, a brotherly love for the people of Gaza. Considering how involved they've gotten into the conflict, so it would seem like Yemen is a perfect place for the residents of Gaza. And Yemen is, we've totally taken them out. They have no capabilities to stop us. We could land planes in Yemen, and there's really almost nothing they could do about it at all. So Israel could get rid of all of their Gazans and send them to Yemen very easily. And then what would happen? Then we would have all of Gaza for us. It would be annexed. Billions and billions of dollars. I mean, I don't even know how many billions. I'm sure Grok could do a calculation. Billions of dollars into Israel's pocket would certainly cover the costs of this war. And Israel would have total victory, never have to worry about Gaza ever again. End of story. End of story. Trump wants. The people of Israel want. You see the hashtag Israel first? You know what that means? That means that Jerusalem shouldn't be worried about Trump's patience. They should worry about the citizens' patience. What about our patience? Yeah? This war has cost a lot of money. It's cost a lot of blood. It's cost a lot of reservists spending over a year and maybe continuing away from their families. What about us, right? Israel first means the citizens first, the state first, Trump last, the EU last, all of these foreign interests last. That's what it means. What about? What about? Who cares? Chief of Staff Eyal Zamir doesn't want to be indicted as a war criminal. Step down. Step down. Listen, again, he is not being forced into the position. None of these guys are. If they don't want to put the state of Israel first, they are free to resign. We're a free country here. This is not North Korea. These guys can all resign. If they don't want to do it and they don't want the heat that comes along with it, understood. The job is not for everybody. It's a tough job, yeah. If you want to resign, feel free to resign. We want people that are Israel first. Eyal Zamir says, oh, well, we're going to have military rule in Gaza if we do this. Well, I mean, that's one option, again. But what if we simply expel the Gazans? Expel them. This has been done before. This has been done around the world. Expulsion of a hostile enemy group. Get rid of them. Send them to Yemen. What's the issue? These people started a war. Hamas is the elected representatives of Gaza to no less degree than Netanyahu is the elected representative of the people of Israel. If Benjamin Netanyahu goes to war with Egypt tomorrow, and Egypt, you know, they do what no other Arab country can do. They have victory over Israel. What's going to happen to the people of Israel? They'll be displaced and probably killed and sent out because they would say, Israel declared war on us. Not Netanyahu declared war on us. Not the Likud declared war on us. Israel did, and now Israel will suffer the consequences. Gaza waged war on Israel, not Hamas. Not Hamas. Hamas is the elected representatives and military arm of the Gazan people. They waged war on Israel. They lost. And now they leave. That's it. Eyal Zamir, for some reason, doesn't even want to consider this possibility. No, we'll have to be responsible for the Gazans. No, we don't. No, that's wrong. That's not true. Send them away. Donald Trump will lose his patience. So he'll lose his patience. You know how much we need Donald Trump? This much. This much. Donald Trump says, Congress is losing support for Israel. Who cares? Who cares? Let me tell you something. If Israel expels the Gazans and they take over Gaza, with a fraction of that money, they could not only replicate the money they get from the United States, the 3 point whatever billion dollars, they could massively build their own military, defense manufacturing capabilities. Massively. So ultimately, all of these threats, they're veiled. I mean, it depends who it's from. The EU openly threatens Israel. Because let's be honest, most of them are outright anti-Semites. The United States, they're not anti-Semitic. But they always feel as if they have to keep their client states on a close leash, right? Well, if you do this, we're the only thing protecting you. Again, that's extortion. Those are veiled threats. And you see, what we've learned after October 7th is Israel can stand on its own 2 feet. And not only can it stand on its own 2 feet, it could be pretty fearsome. Pretty fearsome. You know what we've learned? We have learned that certainly in this region, Israel is the apex predator of this jungle. No question about that. And let me tell Donald Trump something very, very simply. Trump and the Americans, listen very closely. Now, Netanyahu won't do this because he is cowardly, because he is not Israel first. But let me tell you something. Soon, we are going to get an Israel first leadership in this country. And let me tell you, the Chinese would love to trade in the Iranians for the Israelis. Believe me when I tell you this. They would love that. They would love that. China's military tech is garbage. Straight up garbage. I mean, you see these videos they put out. It's trash. The Iranians were leaning on Chinese military tech. It's trash. But let me tell you something. If China was able to partner with Israel, the United States would be in a world of trouble. A world of trouble. And believe me when I tell you, the Chinese would be doing backflips to get the Israelis out of America's corner and into theirs. So, you know what? Maybe America and Trump should stop with the veiled threats. Maybe they should recognize that Israel is not alone. Israel, in fact, is actually, the second they go out there and become a free agent, believe me when I tell you, China would have hit the lottery. They would have hit the jackpot to be aligned with Israel. So don't overplay your hand. That's my advice to Trump and the Americans, because things could change for you very quickly in a very displeasing way. So that's just something to consider. You know, Trump wants to say he's losing patience with Israel. Let me tell you guys something. Israel and a lot of, maybe not Netanyahu, because he's just an old man. He's an old, tired man. Israel and the Israeli people, we're running out of patience with the United States. That's the truth. So, you know we have a lot to offer. A lot. Don't overplay your hand here. Because ultimately, Israel could end up way ahead with a Chinese relationship. The American relationship, it's okay. It's okay. It's not the worst thing ever, but it's not all it's cracked up to be. You know, people here are starting to notice that the Americans, they're trying to play both sides of the fence. Everyone says, well, China's aligned with the Arabs. Believe me when I tell you, okay? They're aligned with the Arabs because the Arabs are all they were left with. Israel went with the United States, and what's left except the Arabs? But if the Chinese could choose between the Arabs and Israel, I promise you guys, China would pick Israel 100 times out of 100 because they're smart, because they're not stupid, because they're about business. And the Chinese, unlike the Americans, are not going to spend their time lecturing us about looking good. You won't look good. The Chinese don't care about that. They care about business. They care about winning. And you know what? Maybe we would be better off with that kind of relationship. Something to think about. But that's the thing. Look, I mean, we have a different focus here. Our focus is Israel first. It is not America first. It's not Donald Trump first. It's not the EU first. It's not public relations first. We don't care about those things. We want to win, and we can win with the right kind of leadership. Okay? Listen, we'll see where we can take this thing, but you know what? This is the place where Israel First patriots are assembling. And what's coming next is going to shock a lot of people. So I'll tell you, Benjamin Netanyahu, his time is over. Finished. He is an old, tired man. He has driven the Likud into the ground. And the existing nationalist right-wing parties, Ben Gvir, Smotrich, they're not really cutting it. An Israel First alternative is going to show up, and it's going to shock a lot of people. So stay tuned.